Joo, elikkä tykki lämpenee vielä ihan pienen hetken, mutta aloitellaan siitä huolimatta. Eli tosiaan osa näistä kalvoista te olette nähnyt jo monta useamman kerran. Everybody in Finnish. Does someone need English? Okay. No itse asiassa se varmaan on parempi, jos me joka tapauksessa puhun sen varsinaisen pääosan englanniksi, koska tällä kurssilla on englanninkielisiä osallistujakin. Eli, so I'm switching to English for the rest of the presentation because even though there's no one here who needs the English version, I know that there's online participants on this course. So, anyway, the idea is that I'll just give you a brief outline on what we are doing and how you will get your grade before Christmas. There's some exchange students, for example, who need to have the grade before the end of this year, or at least have the registration date for this course grade on this calendar year. Anyway, so most of us are probably at this point somewhere around finishing the tutorial projects. Of course, there's still a week to do these, so if you start now, you can still start from the scrap. But anyway, the tutorial projects should at least be started at this point. So they are on the Uni website. Choose 2 beginner level projects. There's plenty of them to choose from. The idea on the rest of the course is to make the personal project. Of course, the idea is to keep it relatively simple, and when you turn in your tutorial works, I will inspect your game design document for your personal project. It's not because I don't believe that you are able to design a game. It's actually the quite opposite. I'm afraid that you will want to design something that's so complicated and difficult to implement that you run out of time or effort to do so. So, basically, the design document should write down or document the most important aspects of your work. The list is here: general theme, main characters, genre, features, story, technical decisions, that sort of things. I know that there's, for example, the fundamentals of software engineering, ohjelmistotuotanto named course, which talks about the documentation templates and documentation approaches and stuff like that. But for this course, the game design document is something like this. So this is from last year's work. There's a small synopsis on what we are doing, collecting vegetables. We play as a rabbit. There's sort of obstacles, some outline of the rules, and also things you can collect, how they are scored, what platform, technical tasks, keywords, levels, some ideas on what assets to use, from which places to collect different things. You don't have to list, for example, the assets if you don't have thought out of them already. You can just say that you will try to, for example, find the wall textures and levels and stuff like that from the existing tutorial projects. So basically, this more or less is the game design document. So a couple of pages summarizing your work. So when you have written this, send it to me via an email. I will, go through it at the same time when I inspect your tutorial works, and I'll give you a couple of pointers or some ideas how to get started. For example, I might take away a couple of levels or say that, okay, don't start to implement the AI opponent, make it first so that there's 2 players, human players, and then, you can try to write the AI script if you have time. The idea is to make something that works. It doesn't have to be very complicated as long as it's a complete game that's playable, that's winnable, that's losable, and which you can start by running the executable and end by selecting quit on some scene, or when the player dies, the game exits, shows you some final scores and then exits, so that you don't have to end the game by killing the process, because the game isn't complete when you have to do that to exit your game. Okay, so I showed these a couple of times ago. So basically, this is just a reminder on the design restrictions. Obviously, self-made, no teams. If you do cooperation with someone else, for example, making sense of the AI scripts, like our level generation stuff or something like that, you are allowed to cooperate, but everyone makes their own game. You can use Asset Store. You can download those, for example, free tutorial or example levels provided by Unity themselves, and make your game based on that level. Well, the point of this course is to provide you with knowledge and experience to utilize your computer science knowledge on game development context. So I'm not expecting you to draw very detailed or complicated 3D models which have complete full animation with the skeleton framework. No, if you can get it somewhere free, you are allowed to use it. However, of course, you have to have source or reference to each external asset which isn't made by you, and you can also use illegally acquired stuff. I know that there's some file sharing services which provide you with a wealth of different things, or you can capture textures by simply screen capturing existing games. Don't do that. That's also because the course projects on this course have sometimes, if they are successful ones, we sometimes use them as promotional tools, of course with your permission, on these events arranged by the university. So if you use some texture or model which is ripped off from Skyrim, it's a bit awkward situation when someone from the audience points that out. Okay, anyway, and you are also free to use whatever instructions you feel like using, tutorial from net, tutorial code. The only restriction is that the project should be openable with standard free Unity, the personal version. It has to work or be editable without any commercial add-ons, and the compiled version has to work on Windows 7 workstation with a keyboard and mouse. Or alternatively, on Unity Web Player, on, so to say, normal Firefox or Chrome installation. So the quite good metric here is that if you can play your built game on computer classroom, the university workstation classroom computer, then you are following all the instructions. That's also because I have to be able to test those games, and the guys or girls doing the review for your game as a peer review process has to be able to actually play your game to be able to give you a score on it. Okay, so when you are done with your project, you think that, okay, now it represents everything I designed. What do I do now? Well, actually, only a couple of things. Deploy your game online. Build it with the Unity Web Player and put it available online, or build a Windows 7 version of the game, zip it up, the executable and the libraries and stuff, and host it online somewhere. So you can either download it or you can directly play it with your browser. Also, put the zipped source code available online. Basically, just zip up the project folder or directory and put it available online. When you have done this, inform me via email, so I'll make note of your documents and games and stuff, so I can then send the link to the game or the package to the person reviewing your game. If you don't have your own hosting service, I know that, for example, Google allows some file sharing and stuff. University has this personal.lut.fi in which you can make your personal website. It's not large, but if I remember correctly, it can host something like 100 megabytes of stuff, so it should be enough to host your Unity-based game for this course. There's instructions on how to activate your account on this server when you go serve to that address. If you cannot understand the Finnish language, select the first link, the uppermost link on the welcoming page, and then on the opening page there should be language selector on the upper right hand. There select English, and it gives you the instructions on how to use that side there. Okay, so what's the schedule then? The deadline for delivering tutorial project and your game design document is next week's Tuesday, 4 p.m. It has been changed. It was next week's Monday morning, but I decided that you can still demonstrate your work on my visiting hour next Tuesday. So by the end of the business hours or office hours of next week, it's enough. You follow the instructions given on the Noppa pages. So if you are absolutely unable to make personal presentation, at least email me your game design document by the deadline and put your tutorial works available somewhere online. Also, you have more or less 1 month to deliver your personal project, and the reviews which you are doing from other people's works, 2 reviews per student, are due to on the Monday of the Christmas week. So yes, I will be here on 21st day of December because I have a meeting that day, and yes, I will put your grades forward a couple of days before Christmas. So everyone should get their grades before. During this year anyway. So, a couple of points why this grading or peer review is important. Like mentioned on the first lecture, the grading is actually based on the average of the 2 people reviewing your work, my given grade, and possible upgrade or downgrade from your own reviews. So there's a sort of a calculation scheme for it. For example, here, the first and second peer reviews give grade 3 and 5, which is the average 4. Let's say that in this particular example, I hated the outcome or thought it was lazy or not good enough. So I gave the grade 2. So the person still got grade 3 because everyone else seemed to like it more than I did. Also, considering that if this person did good review work, then they still might get the final grade before when they upgrade. Get the upgraded grade from the reviews. So, basically what you are reviewing is not how, visually impressive the game is. Of course, I'm not making this a competition on who can afford most stuff from the asset store. That would be completely ridiculous. Basically, the idea is the grade more or less how close to the original idea the implementation got. So how realistic the plan was, how good game the end product was, considering all the limitations. Is it complete? Is it playable? Is it usable? Is it fun game to play? You designed your own product. So if you say that, okay, I know that I will not get good grade on is this game fun because I made a Pac-Man ripoff, which I don't think is fun, well, then you should design yourself a fun game or some alternative version of Pac-Man which you consider would be fun. So this is the creativity is part of this grade. Also, have you done other work, music, sound effects, included your own textures, have you drawn your own models? Of course, you have to point these things out on your game design document or in the documentation of your game if you want them to be accounted for. And overall, how detailed all the other documentation is. Do you have tutorial, for example, for the game, some instructions, help screens, credit screens, these sort of things. Of course, they aren't they aren't mandatory because the game can't be complete game without tutorial or without credits or these sort of things, but of course they are part of the product itself. So basically, when you are given the form, you more or less will be given something like this. This will change a bit, probably, but this is more or less the form you are tasked to fill out. The person receiving the review will get the lines from here to here. So basically, they will not know the name of the reviewer of the game. Of course, last year we had something like 5 final submissions, so they more or less could guess or quite easily know who reviewed who. But anyway, the idea is that you don't know the name of the person who reviewed your game. And there's a couple of things here. How complete the demo is as a game, how ambitious the plan was, how close, how many different techniques and functions the game applies, are they all, how technically complex the game is, and overall some reasoning for the grade, my open opinion concerning the game, and these sort of things. This is also used to collect some open comments about this particular course module. So the last one, open comments, you can send your comments back to me, because the actual Webropol feedback, which is collected at the end of the semester, well, it only comes at the end of semester, and it also includes the other modules. So if you want to say something about this particular fundamentals of Unity part, you can send me your hellos or comments or hate mail through that part of the form. So, anyway, the reviews, well, this is more or less everything I said. The reviews start in December, deadline is on the Monday of the Christmas week, and the final grades will be given you by the end of the year. Of course, I can't promise you that the study office actually puts those grades into WebAudit before end of the year, but at least I tried to give you the grades during this year. Also, as a final notion, I know that most of the work on this course are the tutorial projects and the personal project, but please pay attention to the review work. If you do it half-assed, I will take 1 grade from your final grade, because this is giving constructive, positive and constructive feedback based on the game design is also something that's worthwhile experience. Okay, so this is my second to last slide. So basically, just reminding you that when this module ends in the January, almost immediately after the Christmas and New Year's break, we start with the Finnish Game Jam Code Camp, and whether or not you decide to complete this module, you are more than welcome to join, me and the rest of us, regular participants, on the Finnish Game Jam Code Camp, which will be held on January. So you do not have to complete this module to participate on the next modules. That's just as a reminder for anyone who's still wondering about this. Okay, so that's more or less it. My part today. If you don't want to present anything here, you are free to leave. If you want to present something, the first come, first served approach will be used right after I save this recording and, can start reviewing these works. Thank you.